All right, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday through Friday. Every Monday night, I always want to say that. I don't know why. It used to be Monday through Friday, but, with, times and, getting a couple jobs that support the fan bam, obviously, gotta pay your dues. Make sure you guys, Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show so you guys can get some notifications when we publish videos. We talk about all things wrestling, all the action inside and outside the ring, backstage curtain calls, all the rumors, all the dramas, all the conspiracy theories. We talk about superstar and active statuses, injury updates, contract negotiations, extensions, and new signings. We talk about everything under the sun in terms of professional wrestling promotions like AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, WWE, New Japan Professional Wrestling, Stardom, you name it. If it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show 1010%. All right, without further ado, we got my fifth and final segment. We have the worst wrestling retirement tours, and there's a lot of them. It's crazy because I feel like there's more than less, and that's a damn shame. But I feel like a lot of the reasons are, and I'm going to talk about it in this segment, is the way the WWE has been, ran, with the whole, with Vince McMahon and, with him not wanting to, kind of having this tribal commitment between wrestling brands. Oh, you're a WWE fan, you'll never hear a WWE guy on, AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, etc., etc. And I feel like that hurt the talent. 1,010%. You've seen a lot of talent, like I'm going to talk about today, that left WWE because they weren't really into it. They were forced to have their retirement matches, their retirement tour outside of WWF/WWE that they ultimately built up their name, and it kind of went down in fame, and just wasn't really no bueno. It just wasn't really bueno. I got my man Anthony Mazzano in the chat. How do you make the ending for John Cena and Cody Rhodes? Not predictable. Predictable, yes. Yeah, 1,010%. There are a way you can make it entertaining because we already know John's going to win his 17th title. And that's true. That's true, 1,010%. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Once when he turned John Cena heel, I ultimately kind of felt like that was going to just throw everything out the window. Have a babyface versus babyface in the main event of WrestleMania, forcing fans to kind of, who do I choose? And then maybe, and then Cody Rhodes picks up the win. The men shake hands in the middle of the ring. John Cena looks Cody Rhodes dead in the eyes, and he says, hey, it's your business now, kid. And then bam, rides off to the sunset. Everybody respects John Cena. 17th championship. Hey, big whoop. But now it's like you kind of have to make John Cena win. Like when Anthony was saying, I don't really see a reason why. I don't think John Cena has been, it hasn't been a bad retirement tour. It really has not been. I feel like you haven't really gotten a lot of retirement tours like this. And same thing with The Rock. The Rock, we have not seen The Rock since Elimination Chamber. And yet every single time someone mentions what's going to happen in the main event of WrestleMania, oh, The Rock this, The Rock that. He hasn't been around the whole European tour. He wasn't even there. And that sucks for the WWE. That sucks for the fans. So, is this thing being really taken seriously or into consideration that John Cena is not going to win the belt? Because, like I was talking about earlier today, I feel like the heels should absolutely dominate this WrestleMania. I think they should absolutely smoke the baby faces. Absolutely smoke them. Definitely. That, because there's more storylines to come from that. I love Jey Uso, but nah, give me Gunther retains. Ludwig Kaiser gets involved or something. Jimmy Uso turns his back on his brother. Something, definitely. I don't think the hatred for John Cena is fair. It's not his fault that Vince was pushing him the way he did. True. John never asked for that. And the accusations from friends that John buried talent is unfair because people worked with him. Wade Barrett said it wasn't John Cena's fault that Nexus didn't work out. And I give this a lot of thought and consideration. I definitely think that John Cena, I thought it was kind of cool because you have, like you were talking about, all the naysayers of people being like, oh, John Cena, the only reason why he is in the position that he is right now is because he stepped on everyone's face coming out of the tide pool, drowning other people. You know, you can go one way and be like, at that time, John Cena was young too. John Cena, he was looking to be the face of the corporation. Like Anthony said, like Vince McMahon, he saw John Cena as like a nice little like a puppet. Kids loved him. Kids admired him. There's a lot of wrestling fans in the stands today because of how great of a babyface John Cena was. And John Cena, maybe he was just following orders. Having somebody like John Cena trying to fill in their shoes and be like, okay, we're going to have John drop the belt to this guy. And we're just expecting the company is going to be fine. What's something that The Rock always said? I'm going to do what's best for business. And it was best for business for John Cena to be on top that long. Anthony also said there was a people in the group this coming from Wade Barrett himself that wasn't really taking the gimmick that seriously. Vince said he was supposed to be the replacement for Hulk Hogan. And I can see that. 1,010%. Not really shocking me in that, in that kind of aspect right there. So I agree with that 1,010%. So without further ado, we talked about how badass John Cena's retirement tour has been so far. Like my man was saying, it hasn't been bad. Happy retirement tour, like I said, and it kind of sucks that there's more or less kind of bad ones than good ones. John Cena's retirement tour seeming like it's going actually pretty damn smoothly, but we're going to talk about some ones that was, that's been pretty bad. And a lot of these individuals put they put their body through excruciating pain. They've shortened their lives. They've, some of them, they can't walk around without, with a cane, or they can't walk around the house, or can't sit down straight because their back hurts. They're not going to be able to, dance with their daughter on their wedding day because, you have something, your ACL has been torn up so damn much that it's beyond recognizable. It's beyond replaceable. Some wrestlers, they do commit to a retirement tour, a way to celebrate their legacy, but absolutely some leave a bad, sour, atrocious taste in the back of our mouth. So let's go and talk about the first one. We have Mick Foley. Mick Foley's final match being at the Royal Rumble 2012, going up against Sheamus. You have the hardcore legend. This guy had 3 different personalities: Dude Love, Mankind, and the hardcore legend Cactus Jack. And he fights a match against Sheamus for his retirement tour. He was actually supposed to fight Dean Ambrose, but actually Mick Foley wasn't really feeling it, so he couldn't actually commit to that match. But Mick Foley never really had like a retirement tour that ultimately celebrated his legacy. Like I said, a lot of this does reflect on how WWE was ran during the Vince McMahon era. So you can't really be a little bit too skeptical about this, but it's also fun to talk about. Mick Foley also had a little small stint in TNA where, he wrestled a few times. A lot of people were shocked to see Mick Foley there. I believe he was there the same time as China. I think he was. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But Mick Foley definitely deserved a way better retirement tour. Alundra Blaze as well. At Women's Evolution, the first one, she was in a 20-woman Battle Royal match, which was won by Nia Jax, which is cool. But Alundra Blaze, after everything going down with the Monday Night Wars, where she trashed the WWF Women's Championship on air, and then, comes back to WWE, and it's just like, this could have been done a lot better. Obviously, it was, later on down the line, she had that was, I believe, in 2000, oh God, I can't, 18? No, I could be wrong. But I believe, because she's a Hall of Famer. She's a Hall of Famer as well. She deserved a way, 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 way better retirement tour than than a lot of these superstars actually get. Got another chat from my man Anthony. Foley was dealing with a lot of issues health-wise, which I agree with. When when it came to a ton of injuries, the style of wrestling that he did finally it caught up to him. Yeah, like I said, a lot of these guys put themselves through excruciating pain to entertain the fans. And he came back. He was the general manager of Raw, obviously being seen under Stephanie McMahon. That was cool and all. I thought that was pretty dope. But God, like I said, Dude Love, Mankind, and Cactus Jack, and then like going out like that in a match. His last match being against Sheamus was actually a little lackluster. But, some people might have thought it was great. Like I said, opinionated, subjective, 1,010%. Next, we have Ron Simmons. Ron Simmons, his final match was in a 2012 indie event after being released by WWE. He teamed up with a random tag team, teamed up with Grandmaster Sexay of Too Cool, obviously. If you're part of the Attitude Era fandom, you get that, you understand. But, dude, oh, God. What could we really say about Ron Simmons leaving World Wrestling? He was an icon. Ministry of Darkness, the We Are the Nation of Domination. Basically, when he went out, look at what it says on his shirt, guys. Damn, that's all you could really say. I wanted to see the Acolytes one final time, him teaming up with JBL. That should have been his retirement match. I'm sorry, it should have been his retirement match. 1,010%. A couple cameos on wrestling, on Raw, SmackDown events, just backstage saying "damn," and you couldn't really give him a tag team match with his partner and little like I said, kind of sucks. Next, we have this man, Hulk Hogan, wrestling icon from the '80s. Found his run in TNA, Maximum Impact. He teamed up with James Storm and Sting. Where they fought, I think, I'm not too sure, but he wrestled Sting at Bound for Glory in 2011. That should have ultimately been his retirement match. It was a little slow. But it's just all downhill. All downhill. I feel like, I've been a wrestling fan. I remember watching Hogan Knows Best and just kind of watching everything go down with the family. Then later on in life, a lot of these public scrutinies and and then everything with the whole political thing, and I'm just can any man really trash his legacy? What he did in WWE, what he did in WWF was amazing. WCW, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, he was great. Well, at the end he started fizzling out, and then he came along with Eric Bischoff, and Dixie Carter kind of looked at it. She's like, "Oh, sorry, no, thank you, Panda Energy, out." And then TNA was ultimately struggling. So, Hulk Hogan, I got to be honest, basically based on his wrestling career, nothing outside, none of that BS or whatever, a wrestling icon of the 80s. Someone that a lot of these wrestlers looked up to, a lot of these fans looked up to. He never got a retirement tour from WWE based on personal demons, personal, self-absorbed, and his prestigious, his reputation, his legacy, it took a hit because of it. And it's a damn shame. But in an alternate world where Hulk Hogan wasn't completely screwed and did crapped up things, I would have loved to see this man have a retirement tour that was actually that people actually gave a damn about. But it is what it is. Randy Savage, another wrestling icon in the 80s, had a tag team match with the young AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy at TNA Turning Point 2004, where they defeated Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. But, when I see Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, I love them and all. Wrestling, loyalty and stuff like that. But much like Hollywood Hulk Hogan, much like, Randy Savage, I feel like as soon as WCW, 2001, kind of fell off the boat, there was a couple of guys that was like, dude, I can't see myself in WWE. I can't. And Vince McMahon, even, with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall led first. And then it's just, like I said, a lot of this taken into consideration that Vince McMahon and the way he ran WWE throughout these guys' tenure, where they could have 1,010% potentially had an amazing retirement tour. But, based on Vince's ego, all the wrestling egos backstage didn't really come in fruition. And I feel like Macho Man Randy Savage suffered, snapping to a Slim Jim. Obviously, RIP, rest in peace, my man. But, he never really got a retirement tour. He did, but when you think about it from an outside perspective, you're like, he really did it. Should have been a lot better. Next, we have the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Obviously, a lot of you NWA fans know this guy. And, of course, WCW found his way into WWE for quite some time. Made his way to TNA, to WWE, to AEW. And, definitely floated around quite a bit of time. a lot of baggage outside of the ring. Ric Flair's last match was so important to AEW that's what they named the event. It was Ric Flair's last match. I'll fight you at Ric Flair's last match. He teamed up with Andrade and he defeated Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Something that I never really understood about Ric Flair. And, some guys, it's hard to hang up the boots. I get it. The attention you get, the respect, the money. It's all worth it. It is all worth it. But come on, man, you had that amazing match at WrestleMania with Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. That classic, I'm sorry. And Ric Flair's just crying because he knows what's going to happen. And then bam! Sweet chin music. I, for one, I liked it. I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan. So that could have been the end of it. That could, round of applause. WrestleMania 24. WrestleMania 24. That's WrestleMania. It doesn't get any better than that. And I don't know. Ego. I don't know what to call it, man. It's crazy. Bret Hart teams up with John Cena to have a 3-minute match with Alberto Del Rio and his manager Ricardo Rodriguez in a BS match in the 2021 episode of Monday Night Raw. That's not good. It wasn't good. Bret Hart had a little run with WWE. He actually won the United States Championship. All good things. That's cool and all. But for me, it was sold short. It was sold short. Obviously, we all know everything that happened with Bret Hart and Goldberg, and it's a damn shame. I can imagine in the back of Bret Hart's mind, he was like, if I never would have got that kick from Bill Goldberg, he would have probably surpassed Ric Flair's 16th championship a long ass time ago. That's how great Bret the Hitman Hart really was. He would have had a legacy in WWE. 1,010%. He'd probably be part of WWE creative right now. He'd be like royalty. But unfortunately, stuff does happen. Injuries, you can't forecast them. And Bill Goldberg, I'd say, hey, watch out for the kick. Bret Hart said, he never told me to watch out for the kick. He said, she said stuff, and I can understand why Bret Hart wanted to come back for a small little stint. Just that hunger of what could have happened. I get the backstage politics with Vince McMahon guaranteeing him a 6-year plus multi-million-dollar contract. There was actually a rumor in wrestling media saying that he was going to hold on to the championship for 6 years or something like that. That is crazy. That is crazy. If someone tells you that and you know that they're not really fibbing, I'd be like, you know what, I'm good. But Bret Hart, never really had a retirement tour. I get it. I understand, with the injury and stuff like that. But his last match being against Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez, teaming up with John Cena's cool, but it doesn't really hit. I feel like a man of Bret Hart's caliber, and like I said, the injury does play a factor. Him with the Hart Foundation, one of the most dominant, most recognizable family group inside WWE history. Obviously, Jim the Nine-Bell Hart, rest in peace. Owen Hart, rest in peace. Definitely love everyone involved in the that is the Hart Foundation. And for me personally, I would have loved to see him go against Shawn Michaels. In an alternate universe where Bret Hart never went to WCW, and then him and Shawn, they eventually did bury the hatchet, which is pretty badass, which is cool. Going up against each other one last final time in the retirement matches would have been so freaking cool, man. It would have been so freaking awesome. But, maybe in the next universe. Who knows? Definitely 1,010%. Speaking of Shawn Michaels, we have his retirement tour. His final match at 2018 Crown Jewel against the Brothers of Destruction, Kane and The Undertaker. Oh, bad. All bad. I remember watching this match. I was actually watching it with my wife, and she knows wrestling, but she doesn't really dive into the content and kind of dissects things like I do. I look at things and I'm like, oh, that wasn't meant to happen. Oh, they could have did that better to protect themselves and stuff like that. I'm not a professional wrestler. I've just been a fan ever since I was 6 years old. But that match was really, really bad. I think there was a spot where I think The Undertaker was trying to hit Triple H, and then I think he missed him, and then Triple H just randomly goes, "Ugh," like he goes up against the barricade, and you're like, what is going on right now? What the heck's going on? Obviously, I love the end of the match because D-Generation X picks up the victory. I like Kane and The Undertaker, the Brothers of Destruction, but I was more of a DX kind of guy. But this match was really bad. It was really bad. But I felt like ultimately it was forced. With trying. I believe they didn't have a contract with the sports government in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia yet. So I feel like maybe they're like, okay, we need to make this match happen. But I feel like it ultimately kind of hurt them more than it actually did kind of propel them. Last but not least, one of the worst retirement tours of all time, and it's not Kurt Angle's fault. It's not Kurt Angle's fault. Kurt Angle, simply, facing a lot of, demons outside of work, substances, neck injury, left WWE clearly frustrated, went to TNA. He was promised to, WWE was such a hectic work schedule. Kurt Angle's work schedule at TNA was probably like 2 or 3 times a week, and he was like, compared to like 5, yeah, 5 or 6, yeah, dude, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I need to protect. I need to get right. And Kurt Angle in TNA, you can argue that he's one of the Mount Rushmores on TNA, 1,010%. Him, AJ Styles, Sting, Samoa Joe, a lot of those, the Monster Abyss. There's a lot of TNA stars that once when Kurt Angle kind of came on the scene, it was a big deal. It was a big deal in the wrestling world because Kurt Angle, 2007, ever since then, I think it was 2007 or 2008, and then he was just gone. He was just gone. Then he appeared on TNA, had a new badass entrance, was absolutely a dog, was a monster in TNA. And he comes back to the WWE. Comes back. It's been such a long time. I think he was inducted into the Hall of Fame first. And then Vince McMahon has this great idea that he's going to be the general manager of Monday Night Raw, and he's just going to, people are going to talk crap to him. Stephanie McMahon and Triple H are going to talk down to him 24/7. Then he's going to get pedigreed at Survivor Series, losing the match for for his team, and and then the storyline with him and Jason Jordan. There's actually according to reports, Vince McMahon found out that Kurt Angle had a lot of love interests with a lot of African American ladies back in the day. So he thought it'd be funny to be like, oh, you have an illegitimate, African American son, Kurt. Come on, that's funny. Dude, that's not funny. That's not funny. That's like in no world, way, shape, or form that was funny. That was effed up. That was screwed up, man. So then Kurt Angle, he got it bad. He also, in an interview, he said that maybe he was punished for leaving WWE when he did. And when he came back to WWE, what happened? Baron Corbin, I don't blame Baron Corbin whatsoever. Baron Corbin was probably one of the competitors inside the ring that I absolutely adored the most. You put him in any storyline. Hey man, you're gonna look like a bum today. And he's like, I don't like it, but I'll do it, and I'll do it great. And he did it absolutely great. You're gonna be the lone wolf, you bring the darkness. Okay, yeah. And then he did an absolutely great job. And he came back as a heel. And then, Constable Corbin, talking trash to Kurt Angle. Would have been a little bit more fitting if he had Kurt Angle win his retirement match. But in his retirement match, he lost to Constable Corbin. Like I said, not hating on Corbin whatsoever at all. I definitely respect him. I think he's now on the Busted Open podcast, which is actually pretty cool. I feel like that's good for him. Hopefully he makes it back to wrestling. I would love to see him, back in, in either one. He's that damn good that I would, check out some highlights, of course, if he comes back. All right, guys. So, hey, that's it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed the wrestling show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Follow us on Twitter /X, whatever you like to call it. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook for more content and updates. And make sure you guys tune in to all the other shows here on the GSMC Sports Network. We are a growing family of passionate sportscasters who have one goal in mind to make sure you guys consume all the content that you guys love so damn much. 1,010%. It's absolutely free. So make sure you guys, punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Tune into, Jeremy's Sports by GSMC. Tune in to my man Matt's GSMC Football Podcast, Kenneth's GSMC Sports Podcast as well. We got Marab talking basketball on the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We got my man, we got Jake talking college football, 1010%, absolutely growing. And make sure you tune into the Dead Ball Podcast hosted by Nolan. So, you got missed out a lot of good shows. Be a part of this GSMC Sports bloodline. Don't regret it. I give you guys the Eric Rodriguez guarantee that you guys will absolutely love it. 1010%. Remember to always, follow the videos, sound off in the comment section. Tell me what you guys want to see in the next video. And, we talk some professional wrestling. Hope you guys have an amazing, fun, safe week. It is WrestleMania weekend. Have fun. Hold your loved ones close. Have a party or something for WrestleMania, and next show, tell me how awesome it is. I'm going to be publishing some videos, my WrestleMania predictions, and we'll get into that. So once again, stay beautiful, but most importantly, like always, love you.